When I look at Jazzy, I'm reminded that some moments in a horse's lives only happen once. He was born on April 1st this year, and from the very beginning I knew he would be the last foal I raised. At my age, the winter chores, the stress of breeding, the extra worry, it all adds up. And as much as I love the process, I also knew it was time to downsize and make things a little easier on myself. So this last foal felt meaningful before he even arrived. Gracie, his mother, has always been a dependable mare, and she gave me a textbook birth. It was quiet, calm, and exactly what every breeder hopes for. Within a few minutes, he was up on those long legs and nursing like he'd done it before. And when I finally got a good look at him, he was exactly what I hoped for. Colorful, healthy, and strong. A big blanket across his hindquarters, plenty of spots, tall stockings on 3 legs, and a bald face, and then, the surprise I wasn't expecting at all, both of his eyes were partially blue. That little detail felt like a gift. I've never had a blue-eyed horse, so it's something extra, something special for this last chapter. Breeding Gracie wasn't something I took lightly. I had chosen a stallion owned by a friend, a horse with old-world bloodlines that you just can't find easily anymore. The stallion was 23 at the time we bred, and preserving those lines meant something to both his owner and me. Not for big goals or show accolades, but for the simple purpose of honoring a type of horse that's becoming rare. I wanted one more foal with that look, that temperament, and that history behind him. And Jazzy became that last piece of the story. Watching him grow has been bittersweet in the best way. Knowing he's the last one makes me appreciate every milestone a little more. The first time he followed me willingly, the first time he let me scratch his shoulder, the way he's already showing curiosity about everything around him. Raising foals takes commitment. It takes energy. And at this stage in my life, I'm learning to choose where that energy goes. But I'm grateful that I chose to bring Jazzy into this world. He represents the end of a chapter, but not the end of my connection to horses, just a different kind of future. One of the things that surprised me most about Jazzy is just how different he is from his mother. Gracie is a wonderful mare, but she is, let's just say, spirited. She comes from strong thoroughbred lines, and you can feel that energy the moment you work with her. She's sharp, quick, opinionated, and she passed every bit of that fire onto her first foal. So naturally, I expected Jazzy to be cut from the same cloth. But from the moment he hit the ground, he made it clear he had his own ideas about who he wanted to be. Jazzy is mellow, laid back, almost unshakably calm for a baby. He's the type who watches first, thinks about it, and then says, "All right, sure, we can do that." He's almost too friendly at times. You walk into the pasture and he comes up with that quiet confidence, like he's genuinely happy that you're there. He doesn't need to make a big show of it. He's just easy. And after raising foals with plenty of opinions, easy feels like a gift. And that temperament carried right into his early handling. Haltering him for the first time was almost anticlimactic. He simply stood and blinked those pretty blue eyes at me and accepted it like we'd done it a dozen times already. Every new experience was met with the same steady willingness. His first farrier sessions, he picked up his feet, held them politely, and acted like it was perfectly normal. Of course, we'd practice this, but sometimes it can be very different with a strange person. No drama, no negotiation, just this sweet, agreeable attitude that made the farrier laugh and say, "If they were all like this, my job would be too easy." Even trailering, which can be a major milestone for a young horse, was one of those moments that showed me just who Jazzy is. With the trailer door propped open, I walked in, and he just followed. First try, no hesitation, no coaxing. He trusted me completely, and that's the kind of trust you can't manufacture. It's part of who he is. Some horses are born with fire, and some are born with peace. Jazzy is definitely one of the peaceful ones. Raising him has been a reminder that every foal is a new roll of the dice, a blend of genetics and personality that we never really control. Gracie gave me a firecracker with her first foal. This time she gave me a steady, gentle soul. And honestly, for my last foal, I couldn't have asked for anything better. But the downside to Jazzy's mellow personality, and I don't think people talk about this enough, is that those laid-back babies can be a little careless. Not in a naughty way, just in a, oh, that looks like a nice place to nap or roll kind of way. And sometimes those choices get them into trouble. When he was tiny, he had a habit of getting himself cast. He'd wedge himself against the fence or a wall, legs flailing, completely stuck. And when he was little, it wasn't a crisis. I could just walk up, roll him onto his belly, and off he'd go like nothing had happened. But now that he's much bigger, it's a very different situation. There is nothing simple about unsticking a large, confused young horse who suddenly realizes he can't move half his body. He is a big boy, much bigger than his sibling from a few years ago. Just this week, he gave me another one of those moments that turns your stomach inside out. I had pulled into the driveway after running errands, and before I even closed the truck door, I heard it, that unmistakable banging sound. If you've ever had a horse get cast, you know exactly what that sounds like. It's loud and frantic. And the moment I heard it, I knew. I didn't even think. I just threw the door shut, grabbed a halter and lead, and ran for the shelter. And sure enough, there he was, stuck on his back, wedged tight up against the back wall, legs scrambling, eyes wide. Not panicked yet, but definitely overwhelmed. It's one of those moments where everything clicks into place at once. The risk of injury, the size difference, the fact that you're the only one there, and the clock is ticking. You can't leave them. You can't wait. You just have to act. Oddly enough, Mystery was just laying a few feet away, just watching him. Once I was on the scene, she got up and walked away quietly, like she had been looking out for him. I talked to him the whole time, partly for him and partly for myself. I eased myself into the safest spot I could find, got my lead rope around his hind legs, and started working to flip him back over. I tried once and failed, tried again, and finally with one big pull, I managed to get enough leverage to get him past the balance point, and he flipped the rest of the way over and scrambled to his feet. And he just stood there, breathing hard, covered in sweat and shavings, but completely calm, as if this was simply another item on his daily checklist. That's Jazzy. He gets himself in trouble, and then he stands there afterward like, okay, what's next? Moments like that are reminders that even the mellow ones need watching, sometimes especially the mellow ones. They don't have the sharpness or self-preservation instincts that more reactive horses do. They trust the world a little too much. They relax a little too completely. And because of that, they rely on us to pay attention, know their habits, and to get there when they need help. This is exactly how he got hurt a while back. That incident this week wasn't the first time Jazzy managed to get himself into trouble. A while back, he gave me one of the worst scares I've ever had with a young horse, and I've had my share over the years. He'd roll too close to the fence, which wasn't unusual for him, but this time, when he stretched out, his leg slipped right between the gate and a panel, and it wedged there, tight. I was inside the house when it happened. The only thing that alerted me was my dog suddenly going crazy, barking at the window, like he never does unless there's truly something wrong. I looked out and saw Jazzy thrashing, stuck in a way no horse should ever be. I don't think I've ever moved so fast, and the whole time I was running to him, my mind was doing that awful loop. What if his leg is broken? What if I'm too late? You can't help it. Horses long enough, you know how quickly things can go bad, especially with foals, especially when there's fencing involved. When I finally got him undone, he jumped up, but the damage was clear immediately. He was bleeding heavily. Skin was missing off his cannon bone. It wasn't a little scrape. It was one of those injuries that turns your stomach over because you already know the long road of care ahead, and you know they don't understand why it hurts. It was terrifying, and honestly, it shook me. Accidents with horses always do, but when it's a baby, the one you've waited years to breed, and you know this is your last foal, it hits a little deeper. They're the kind of moments that people don't see on social media. The quiet panic, the endless scrubbing and wrapping, the hoping you caught every bit of infection in time, and the constant worry, will he be sound? Will this leave a scar? Will he recover? What followed was 7 long weeks of changing bandages, keeping the wound clean, and doing everything I could to keep the infection away. Anyone who's dealt with a cannon bone injury knows how stubborn those can be. The skin is tight, the area is exposed, and foals don't exactly cooperate with stall rest. Every single day felt like its own routine. Gather the supplies, clean the wound, apply medication, wrap, rewrap, and hope we were one step ahead of whatever trouble a curious baby might get into next. There were days when it looked better and days when it looked worse. Days where the swelling had me worried all over again. And of course, vet visits, several of them. I was so grateful every single time that he already knew how to load in a trailer. That one little skill made everything easier. No fighting, no stress, no wrestling around with a worried and injured baby and a tight timeline. He just stepped in like it was nothing, and honestly, that felt like a small miracle in the middle of everything else. Those weeks reminded me just how much time and energy go into raising a foal the right way. The joy is real, but so is the responsibility. And at this stage of my life, caring for an injured youngster took a different kind of toll, physically and emotionally. It reinforced why I knew Jazzy would be my last. Not because I don't love raising foals, I do, but because the stress of moments like this is heavier now than it used to be. And I think it's okay to say that. He did heal, thankfully. He will always have a scar. He appears fully sound now, but that day changed how I watch him. It changed how I look at fences, and it reminded me again that raising babies isn't just joy in baby pictures. It's responsibility, and sometimes it's fear, and sometimes it's hard decisions about when one last foal needs to be truly the last. I am so thankful that he was already halter trained, that he was easy to catch, easy to handle, and easy to change his bandages. It could have been an entirely different scene if he had been an unhandled foal. I wouldn't trade his easygoing nature for anything. It's part of what makes him who he is. He just needs a little more supervision and maybe fewer corners and walls and fences. He's worth every bit of the effort. Thank you so much for watching. Please check out my other videos, like and subscribe. Thanks again. Bye-bye.